My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Samas and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Well, hello there, and welcome to this Talking Tennis and Tennis Tribe collab episode. I'm here with, well, your favorite doubles pairing in tennis fandom. It's Will and Hanlon. How you guys doing?
Doing good. I'm working on my background right now, trying to set up a good AO doubles crowd. I got back last Thursday from the tournament and have tons of photos and videos. There we go. We've got Elise Mertens and Ellen Perez in front of a massive crowd on court 6.
Nice. Yeah, the doubles matches were pretty well attended on the whole, I think, across this tournament.
Yeah, especially week 1. I actually learned a lot about that throughout the tournament, which we can get into a little bit later.
Hanlon, how jealous are you that you've had to deal with Australian time zone problems and Will hasn't?
I was pretty jealous not to be there, but I will say that for us 9-to-5ers working in the US or North America, the Australian Open is probably the best slam because in terms of viewing, because you can, it starts when you get off work, you can watch as late and stay up as late in the night, and then sometimes wake up in the morning and the 5-set evening matches will still be going on. So honestly, I prefer watching the Aussie Open at home over, Wimbledon or Roland Garros, just because of the time zone advantages we have here.
I mean, to be honest,
nothing beats being there, though.
That's my experience of the US Open being in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
It's not far off. Maybe struggled to catch. I think the only 5-set match of the US Open I could think of I could have woken up for was that Sinner Alcaraz quarterfinal from a couple of years back, which I think finished at 6, 7 a.m. my time. But anyway, so we're here talking doubles, not singles. Sadly, 5 sets in doubles is no longer. But let's jump into it. So I guess what I would like to start with is, I think let's start with the one that's kind of the match that kind of caught a lot of attention straight after the women's final on the Saturday of the tournament, which is that men's doubles final where Harry Heliovara and Henry Patton won their second Grand Slam title, beating Bolelli and Vavasori. And I think my overwhelming response was that, okay, first of all, clearly that Wimbledon title for Heliovara and Patton was not a fluke. Secondly, why does it always take an epic for these two to win a Grand Slam final? Well, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. I feel like people, I interviewed their coach, Calvin Betton, actually a few days before the final down in Melbourne. And he talked about the Wimbledon run and how a lot of the kind of general tennis public, especially those who don't follow doubles, thought that the Wimbledon title was I guess, fluke, like you say. I think there was comments just from a lot of the big tennis media about, some guy who worked in an airport came and won Wimbledon doubles. Like, what does that say about doubles and blah, blah, blah. But people who knew at the time their story and followed doubles more closely knew that they had been playing at a super high level and they were a very dangerous unseeded team going into that Wimbledon. And they've obviously backed it up. Why do they need these epic 3-set battles to win? I'm not sure. I don't think I have a good answer to that. But it's at least entertaining and super fun to watch. The first set tiebreaker was exhausting. It's a 7-point tiebreaker, and the final score was 18-16. So it went back and forth, and they actually lost that tiebreaker and then won 7-6, 6-3 from there. Yeah, just an amazing run. They're playing at a super high level, obviously. I did, part of me kind of felt for Bolelli and Vavasori. They've made 3 Grand Slam finals in the last 12 months. They made the finals in Australia last year. They made the finals at Roland Garros last year. And they just can't quite break through yet. I hope that they do, because they're both fantastic players. They're working really hard and they deserve it. But yeah, just an epic. I mean, overall, the doubles finals compared to the singles finals, obviously Madison Keys was great, but the men's final on the singles side was not so strong. And the doubles finals were epic all around.
Hanlon, wanted to ask you sort of, what was your reaction to that first set tiebreak? Because that first set tiebreak was so epic, it set the start of WTA Weekly back 10 minutes, because John and I wanted to watch it, make sure we finished at least watching that before we went live. So I think if anyone was waiting for us there, they would have understood.
Yeah, I think more than anything, it just showed you how tight the margins are in doubles, and especially men's doubles. It's so serve dependent and serve dominant that I remember watching the first set tiebreaker, and it was impressive just how clutch of servers each of the 4 players were. And when they were down multiple set points each, for each team, and they would just come up with big clutch first or second serves or big aggressive moves to the net. I know Bolelli was really the MVP of the end of that first set tiebreaker, and he made just some bold net moves and had some really clutch serves. So it's just a reminder on how thin the margins are, and especially in the men's game, just how prominent the first serve is in the course of the point and the end of a set like that.
I mean, part of me was very glad that they did win that set, because although Patton and Heliavara had 5 set points before, and they kept being saved, like it was a 6-1 lead, something like that, in that tiebreak, and then they got pegged back. The Italians had already almost won the set earlier in the match. Had it not been for a kind of a first real VAR headache incident that happened sort of when the Italians were serving for that first set, and what could have been a set point, so they became a break point against them, and then Heliavara and Patton fought their way back. That was such a close call, Will. What we're watching it, obviously we didn't get a great camera angle on it, but did you think that was a reach over the net?
I didn't think so, but the camera angle was tough. It's really hard to tell in those situations. I feel like we need some kind of better camera or technology or something, especially in doubles, because it's so much more common for the net player to be that close. But for me, I feel like unless they absolutely are positive, they should not be calling that sort of thing. You don't want to, to mess, you don't want to get yourself involved as a chair umpire if you don't have to.
Yeah. Because to me, it looked, again, from the camera angle, it looked in line with the net rather than over the net at most. But I agree with you. Like, if it's marginal, just let the point play out as it was. I don't know whether it was Harry or Henry. I keep doing that. Harry or Henry, who asked for the video review, but what keen eyes they had to suspect that was a possibility, that there was a reach over.
Yeah, they just have a good sense on the court, right? Like, you've played so many of these doubles matches at this stage, and you know how close people are to the net and what it looks like. I don't know. I guess their spatial awareness on the tennis court, because they are pro tennis players, is just, something that we can't really relate to, because we're not on the court for multiple hours every day. So yeah, it is really good awareness, but at the end of the day, I don't think that the chair should be getting involved unless it's really clear and definitive.
Do you go with that, Hanlon?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest role a chair umpire can play is just being invisible, and like Will said, when if you ever notice a chair umpire too much within the course of a match, so it feels like sometimes they might either be trying to steal the spotlight, or that the situation's gotten out of hand for them to be too visible in a match. But they're best the best matches are when they're under the radar.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's about fine. I guess then before we kind of move on to like wider men's doubles stories, what I wanted to ask was just doing a little bit of analysis on this match. What would you say made the ultimate difference in the final between Patton and that meant Patton and Heliovara won it? Obviously, you could say like, was it they just like clicked much better, especially in the final set? Was it that sort of one of the other guys went away a bit? What do you think was the kind of clincher, really?
I mean, really, there was just no difference between the two teams, and it happened to go their way. Like Hanlon said earlier, the margins are so small. It's like I just looked up the total point count, and it was 129 to 119. So a 10-point difference for Heliovara and Patton. But really, that's a 5-point difference because one of those points goes the other way, and then it's down to 8, and then another one, and it's down to 6. So really a 5-point difference over the course of a 3-hour match. That's such small margins. And if you watch that third set, the game to close it out, I think it was Henry Patton's serve. They were down 15-40. So Bolelli and Vavasori had a chance to get back into that set and get it to 5-4 on serve. And on the 30-40 point, Bolelli has a sitting forehand, slow ball, high over the net, a ball that he makes and probably finishes the point on maybe 8 out of 10 times. And he just sailed it long for some reason. I don't know if it was the pressure of the moment or whatever, but he definitely had to be thinking about that one later that day and that evening, because that was, if you freeze framed the point at that moment, you would have put all your money on, okay, now we're back on serve, because he's going to win that point like 8 or 9 out of 10 times. And it just didn't go his way that time. So I feel like with these small margins, a lot of it's, part of it's luck, a lot of it's really the big points, right? And those tiebreakers, the first one was 18-16, the second one was 7-5. So can you play some of those big points just slightly better? On the men's side, I mean, that's just how it goes. Like if you play that match 10 times over, they each win 5 probably.
Yeah. I think that's fair comment. It does seem like a very, very close match, which is probably feeds into your hopeful assessment of Bolelli and Vavasori eventually getting over the line at some point. They seem pretty strong everywhere. Am I right in thinking that Bolelli's been waiting 10 years for a doubles Grand Slam, or is it might have just been the Australian Open? I know he won it 10 years ago with Fognini.
Yeah, it was 2015. And I believe you're right there. So that would be his second, and then they are still waiting on their first one as a team.
Yeah. But that's been 10 years. So he's only got one double slam. I thought he had a couple.
Yeah, pretty sure he has that one with Fognini, and then obviously he's been a force at the top of the game for on and off for the last decade. But in terms of slams, they're still waiting on their first as a duo.
Wow. Yeah.
I'd also think that beyond the X's and O's that we'll talked about, just Heliovara and Patton having been through such a dramatic Wimbledon final and been tested in the pressure cooker of a Grand Slam final before last year, with that confidence had to do them some benefit in the latter stages of this match. And you wonder too if the doubts were creeping in for Bolelli and Vavasori, just having finished back-to-back runner-ups at the Australian Open and Roland Garros last year, still waiting on their first major. The more losses you have in the final stages of majors, the more those can accumulate, and then the doubts can start creeping in. So you got to think that might have been part of the factor as well.
Yeah, but you never know what's going on inside players' heads, especially when there's two of them on court, and more people to try and read. I've heard, I think I remember listening to like one commentator. I know it wasn't one of you guys, so that's why I wanted to get your perspective on it. Was that one of the reasons why Heliovara and Patton work together so well is they are very sort of opposite temperaments in some ways, and they seem to but that seems to sort of have a really good balancing effect when they work together as a team.
Yeah, Yeah, this is something that I've actually learned more and more about talking with players and coaches, and like the importance of team chemistry. I'm personally more of like a math kind of objective guy, and this is something that's so subjective that I've uh, kind of, I don't know, avoided the topic a lot over the years, but it is super, super important. And they talked about it, I think, in their post match interview during the trophy presentation, how Harry is more like the energetic, like upbeat, charismatic player. And then Henry is more kind of level headed, even keel, a little bit lower energy. So Henry can kind of feed off of Harry's energy. Harry can pick Henry up, but then at the same time, like when they need to calm down and focus, maybe it seems like Henry's able to say like, all right, let's reset here. Like his highs aren't as high and his lows aren't as low, I suppose, is one way to phrase it. And I've noticed that with a lot of pro teams. Some of the best teams, one player is a little bit more maybe emotional and a little bit more kind of up and down, and another player's more even keel. And that seems to work for a lot of teams.
Yeah. I could imagine that, yeah. And to say that chemistry of like picking the other one up or the other one calming the other down, that's going to be important when they might be down in a match or there's a big point coming up. That plays a lot into the psychology of tennis, which, I think we talk about a lot of the psychology on the singles court, because obviously it's 1v1 and there's this romanticized notion of it's you against the world, but on a doubles court it's such a different, it's completely different, because it's not just you've got a partner to kind of live up to, with, to kind of and kind of have their back for, and so you're almost juggling much more than you would be on a singles court. At least that's how it would seem to me, Hanlon.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think half the battle is just being on the same page as your partner. Beyond, we hear players talk about this all the time, but they, you need to be able to communicate well and have someone that ultimately you get along well with. You don't have to be best friends off the court, but you do have to have a certain level of chemistry and camaraderie and trust and openness that you can, it's like a relationship. You need to be able to communicate with them when you're struggling or when you're having good days, and read your partner well and balance each other out. So it's really all about the ebb and flow and the balance, both in terms of tactics and strengths, but also the intangibles as well, because that's half of the struggle and the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of kind of, we've kind of talked about sort of partnerships and things like that. This is kind of going a bit further back into the draw now, away from the final. But one of my initial reactions when following this tournament was kind of being flabbergasted that Austin Krajicek and Rajiv Ram were unseeded, and they had a heck of a draw because they were unseeded. But maybe the last time I checked the doubles rankings was a bit too long ago. But I was kind of surprised that their combined rankings wasn't high enough for them to get that seeding.
Yeah, they won the silver medal at the Olympics and got 0 points for that, which is a debate that I saw on Twitter around the Olympics. Should you get points for the Olympics? I think you probably should. And then Austin I think he was down, at least before the Australian Open, to around 43 or 45 in the rankings. And then Rajiv was at like 27 or so. So I think they just missed this seeding because for the most part, they just didn't have, neither of them had a great year outside of the Olympics last year. I expect them to be seeded. I'd be surprised if they're not seeded, assuming they stay healthy at Roland Garros at the next major, because we know what they're capable of. We saw it in Paris last year. They both have won major titles. So I think they're going to be a team that's certainly in the mix for the year-end finals, one of the top 8 teams this year. Last year, for whatever reason, maybe partly due to injuries, partly due to just an off year, they switched partners. Austin ended his partnership with Dodig last year during the middle of the year, and then Rajiv finished the year with, or finished most of the year with Joe Salisbury before teaming up with Austin at the end of last year. So yeah, a lot of different factors there, but it was weird to see that when the draw came out. It's like, okay, who's going to play these guys? But overall, I feel like, especially the 1,000 level tournaments, majors too, but the ATP draws are just so tough in doubles. Like I feel like every single 1,000 level tournament I'm watching, the draw comes out and I'm like, well, any one of these teams, even the top seed, could lose first round because every team is so good, especially when you get a lot of singles players in the mix at the Masters events.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did mark Krajicek and Ram's first round match against Ebden and Vliegen as a must watch. Like, I think that was like one of the opening matches of the day, and I was like, there is no other singles match that I'm particularly interested in, so I'm gonna watch that one. So,
yeah, I attended that one. I was there for that one, and it looked like Ebden's ankle was bothering him, I think.
Okay.
So it just didn't turn out to be as good of a match as it probably should have been, because he was clearly like hobbling around and stuff like that. So
I'm aware that obviously we've only got a small amount of time, so I don't want to. I think we'll probably wrap up the men's doubles draw in a minute. What I wanted to ask, we'll start with Will because you were there. Are there any stories from the men's doubles tournament that we would be remiss not to mention before moving on?
Sorry, you broke up. Any stories you said?
Yeah, like any particular pairings we need to comment on or runs that you were impressed by?
There's a lot of new partnerships this year. A lot of them are from the same country even. So Joe Salisbury and Neil Skupski at the beginning of the year were a team to look out for. They lost, I think in the second or third round, which I talked to Louis Caillet, who's the senior performance advisor, doubles guru for the LTA. And he's coaching them. He was coaching 5 other teams in Australia. And he said that they just had a rough match and lost that one. Another team that won Auckland was Michael Venus and Nikola Mektic. They lost first round in I believe it was a 3-set match. So there'll be a team to keep an eye on throughout the rest of the year. And then several teams from last year that are continuing to play well. Kravitz and Poots, Bolelli and Vavasori, as we said, obviously the champions there. So yeah, a lot of new teams to keep an eye on throughout the rest of the season. And I think that was kind of the biggest, maybe general storyline on the ATP side, is just keeping an eye on these new teams, see how they mesh early on in the season.
Han, did you want to throw anything else into the ring on that?
Well, I think it's interesting, especially, with both of us being in the US and UK, it's interesting to see the depth of talent in the doubles right now. With, I think there's 5 US players in the top 40. Interestingly enough, Ram and Krajicek are ranked number 4 and 5 behind Nate Lammons, Jackson Withrow, and now Robert Galloway are all in the top 30. And then I think with the UK, there's 6 players. There were 6 players in the top 40 before the event, with Patton, Skupski, Glasspool, Murray, Cash, and Salisbury. So a lot of depth between those 2 countries, and also partner swapping and national teams sort of forming up in a non-Olympic year, which is also interesting. Typically, we see a lot of national teams team up, last year for 2024 to play, and prep for the Olympics. So we're seeing more of that this year, post-Olympics, which is different than usual.
Maybe prepping for the next Olympic cycle in 2028. I'm of the opinion that the British media, specifically the BBC, who show Wimbledon, needs to show doubles way more than they do, because they're constantly obsessing over whether a British person will win it. And frankly, if they showed the men's doubles, they've got a very good chance of that.
That is a good point, yeah.
Whereas they just constantly go on about whether Jack Draper or Emma Raducanu is going to win the singles.
Yeah.
Actually,
enough stories from Emma Raducanu.
This is not the show for that. Actually, there was one thing I just want to mention before we moved on from the men's. Borges and Cabral, the big underdog run of the draw quarterfinals, losing very tight match to Bolelli and Vavasori. Like, I wasn't expecting them to go very far.
Sorry, say that one more time.
The Borges Cabral pairing. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
unexpectedly strong.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would say unexpectedly. I didn't get a chance to watch them, unfortunately, but I've seen them play, I think, at the US Open, and they know how to play doubles. So they're a pretty strong team. It looks like their draw kind of opened up after the first round. So they're the team that beat Mektic and Venus, and it looks like it was in straight sets, 7-6, 6-3. But then after that, they played a couple of a little bit lower ranked doubles players, and then the team from the Netherlands, Griekspoor and Van de Zandschulp, always mess up his name, and won in a tight third set. So I think after that opening round, it looks like the draw kind of eased up for them. But they're, like I said, on the men's side, there's just no gimmies in these doubles draws, especially after the first round at these majors. These all these teams play so good, and Borges has had some good singles results as well, right? So we know he can serve well, return well, hit from the baseline well. So anyways, I don't think that was some huge shock, at least to me anyways.
No,
I think the biggest difference between this might transition as nicely to the women's field, but I think right now the biggest difference between men's and women's doubles is the men's field is way more wide open. There hasn't been one team who's won more than one major together, like in a calendar year, since 2019, when Cabal and Farah won back-to-back majors together. And then it feels like this era of women's tennis has been dominated by a couple of individual players like Shea and Siniakova, and a couple of top teams who have been battling at the later end of majors. So that's one key difference, I think, just in the landscape of the two different doubles tours right now.
Perfectly segued. Couldn't have done it better myself. Yeah, because you're right. Like on the other end of the scale, it was kind of a lockout in the semi-finals involving four of the top three doubles seeds, which I think hardly ever happens, and probably the most exciting up and coming pairing on the women's tour right now, which we'll probably get to. But yeah, let's talk about the women's event. And yeah, Katerina Siniakova and Taylor Townsend have won their second Grand Slam together. Obviously, it's Siniakova's 10th Grand Slam overall in her career. And look, I think it's a pretty popular. I think whoever won this tournament was going to be pretty popular. But I wanted to kind of start with you, Hanlon, and sort of similar question to what I asked about the men's final. What ultimately made the difference in this one? I mean, it seemed to me that Siniakova and Townsend seemed to have it up until Shane Ostapenko hit a bit of a purple patch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, they should have won it in straight sets. The first set was not the best quality from what I remember from Shane Ostapenko, and it looks like Townsend and Siniakova might run away with it. And then Ostapenko and Shea kind of caught fire midway through the second set. Ostapenko started going for more of her returns and hitting a heavier baseline game that we're used to, and just with more commitment. Shea was more aggressive at the net, so they were able to sneak away with that second set. But I think what it came down to is just Townsend and Siniakova's rapport on the court together. They won Wimbledon last year. They've played in 6 or 7 events now and had a lot of success, and just more court time together and longer partnership. Shane Ostapenko are still working out some kinks. I was actually pleasantly surprised that they made it as far as they did in their second event together. So I think it's pretty impressive that they made it to the finals. But Siniakova and Townsend looked like the better team from start to finish, and like I said, likely should have won it in straight sets.
I wanted to get your perspective, Will, on something that might be a bit of a flippant question, but I'm hoping there's people kind of watching who maybe don't know doubles as well, and so can learn something from it. But is it that can Katerina Siniakova win a Grand Slam with pretty much any partner at this point?
She probably couldn't win one with me, but most players on the WTA tour, I think so. She's just got so many different assets that make her a fantastic doubles player. You can start with her physical ability. Like, she's pretty tall. She's probably 5'10" or something. So she's got good reach at the net. She's pretty quick. She's not the fastest player on tour, but she's pretty quick and she can run balls down. With her reach at the net, her instincts can take over, and her doubles instincts are as good as anyone in the world. She's able to read the play and anticipate as good as anyone. And then this is actually a kind of theory that I've, developed in the last week or two after being down in Australia. It seems like, at least on the women's side, I would need to check this on the men's side, like a lot of the best doubles players are between 50 and 100 in singles. So most of Siniakova's singles career, she's been around that. I know she's reached top 50, maybe top 40 at a few points, but mostly, around that 40 to 60 mark. Taylor Townsend has been similar. She's reached top 100 in singles, but she's never been a top 20 player, especially on a consistent basis. Shea Sue, she had a pretty good singles career, but was never a top 10, top 20 player, right? She was around that 50 mark. So what that does is it allows them to hit from the baseline with anyone when they need to, but then they also have the doubles IQ and the doubles instinct to play at the net. So they're a little bit more versatile than some of these players who maybe never reach top 100 or top 200 in singles, and they're only kind of doubles specialists. I feel like some of those players run up against some players who can hit really big from the baseline. Sometimes it is some singles players like we saw with Kostyuk and Roos in this tournament, and they can't hang from the baseline. So I think that's another thing that makes Siniakova so good is she hits the ball so hard from the baseline, especially with her backhand. So she can kind of take out that net player and she can sit there and rally with you, especially from the ad court. So she's just got so many attributes that make her such a good doubles player, and she can play all the different positions really well. So regardless of who her partner is, she can obviously is always a threat to win a major.
Yeah, there you go. We've got Shea's career highs, Shea and Siniakova's career highs there. And actually, this is such a thing I actually looked into for fun. So I actually wanted to, I'm glad I was on the show with you because I was going to ask this anyway. But something I've noticed, just sort of generally talking about doubles, I looked at the doubles champions on men's doubles and women's doubles over the last sort of 10 years or so, and sort of what their best results at a singles slam were. And I find it very interesting that most of the players who have won men's double slams have not played a main draw or not qualified, like been in qualifying and not made it, or never even got to qualifying, or didn't even make second week. And yet that's almost the complete opposite on the women's side, where a lot of the doubles Grand Slam champions have made second week of a singles slam at least once in their careers. And in fact, some of them they are won titles in both. I'm thinking of Krejcikova, Sabalenka, Goff. Swiatek hasn't, but she's got to a slam final. She had a couple of good deep runs very early in her career at the French. That's really, really interesting to me that difference exists. And I was wondering, and maybe I'll come to Hanlon first on this one, but I think that we'll jump in after Hanlon's answer. Why do you think that might be?
That's a good question. I think largely it's got to be because of the slam, Grand Slam, at least the slams, the best of 3 of 5 format for the men's. It's hard for a top male player to commit to a full-time doubles tournament and also back themselves to go deep in the singles if they're going to be tested in 4 or 5 set matches the first several rounds. And I think as a result, it seems to be that there's maybe a different stigma of doubles in the men's tour versus the women's. The men's is likely more, I've heard people say it's, a lot of the guys who didn't make it at singles, doubles is their backup plan. And you don't see too many doubles players who commit to playing doubles only right when they're coming up on tour. So I've heard that argument a lot. And then the women's, like you said, there's a lot more compelling, household names, top singles players who are playing. And I would think that it's because of the best 2 of 3 format allows them to also prioritize doubles. But, there may be other reasons too. But besides that, I'm curious to hear Will's answer or input there as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the main factor is for sure best of 5 in singles. some of these singles matches are so long and so brutal, especially in the Australian heat. Like you can't do that and play doubles the next day, which might take 2 or 3 hours, and recover for another 5-set singles match the day after that. Like it's just not really feasible. I guess another thing that came to mind while Hanlon was talking is on the men's side, the skills required for doubles, I think, on the ATP tour are more different than the skills required for doubles on the WTA tour. I don't know if I said that the right way. So like on the ATP tour, the men play so close to the net in doubles, and they have these quick reaction angle volleys that you just never hit. Like if you're a singles player, you never train that and you never hit it. So then you get out on the doubles court and you like don't know how to play that. Like you can't play that level of doubles. So they're not able to make as deep of a run. Whereas in the women's game, I think WTA doubles is more similar to WTA singles than ATP doubles is to ATP singles, because the WTA side, there's more lobs. You'll see more rallies from the baseline. You'll see more volleys from a little bit further off the net. So it's a little bit more similar to singles. So you'll see some of the same skill sets required. Therefore, you'll see some of the same players, like Coco Gauff or Krejcikova or Paolini did really well in both last year. So I think there's more overlap in terms of the skill set on the women's side. So I think that's part of it as well.
Thanks for answering the question. Yeah, that's a good idea. I guess we probably need to probably talk to some of the people about it, but I think it's it's a question that I was curious about, and I think you're right. I'm liking this idea of like skill sets are just different across both, and the best of 5 set factor comes into it with the guys probably can't do it, and like there's no way if Daniel Medvedev or Leonard Tien were playing doubles in the men's side, there's no way they'd have carried on at the draw after that match they had in the single.
I'd be curious what happens too, like if I know there's a lot of talk and debate on if the ATP should go back or should only do best 2 of 3 instead of 3 of 5, just because the matches are more physical and going on longer. And I'd be curious if that impacted men's doubles positively if they did get back to 2 of 3 and just more singles players were allowed to play doubles, because I would argue, it's probably not much of an argument, but I think there's likely more popularity and just more familiarity and household names in women's doubles than men's doubles, because you do have those top singles players playing who are bringing, more of a compelling fan base than, some of the men's double specialists who are lesser known to the average tennis fan.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Whereas, quite a lot of these women's doubles players have quite significant fan bases. I mean, like even looking at like the top names in these draws at the minute. I guess, Hanlon, I'm aware that you are in a bit more of a time limit, but we haven't even quite got into the women's draw properly yet. So I think
I've got 10, 15 minutes left, so we're good. And then I can drop off whenever.
Got 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, fantastic. But what I was what I'll do then is I'll do the next player, and then I'll let you, Hanlon, pick which team we do next. Or any teams you particularly wanted to comment on. But I, at the risk of forgetting about Taylor Townsend, who also, I asked that question about Siniakova somewhat flippantly. Taylor Townsend, is kind of building up a nice sort of trophy cabinet in doubles, and that's her second slam with Siniakova. Great doubles player, has been since she was a junior. But I guess I wanted to ask, I'll ask if you will, what is it that's kind of making Townsend work so well with Siniakova at the minute?
Yeah. Well, I think the lefty-righty combo is always a good asset to have on a doubles team. Townsend's always been a good doubles player. She's, it's rare that you get a chance to play with someone as good as Siniakova. So like maybe that's all she needed and didn't really need anything else. It seems to help a lot of people having Siniakova as a partner.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Because she's like her partners have not been quite as successful in doubles. Although didn't she partner with Mertens at one point?
Hanlon, did she? I don't know
Townsend.
about that.
Townsend.
She and Layla Fernandez were a team a couple years ago, and then I'm trying to think who Taylor played with before Siniakova. She might have been switching
was she
around.
playing with the Australians?
So
no, that was
She also played with Beatrice Haddad Maya for a little bit as well.
Yeah, that was at the beginning of last year, before Storm got hurt, and then Siniakova asked Taylor to play, and then Taylor, I don't know if she ditched Haddad Maya, but that relationship ended, I guess.
She's the type of Siniakova is the type of partner that you clear your schedule for, or you break up with your current partner for when you get the invitation.
Yeah.
No offense to Haddad Maya or Fernandez, because they are relatively well decorated doubles players, but nowhere near some of Siniakova or even some of the others who have been top in the field right now. So go back.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's obviously the biggest factor. You just can't deny that just because of the numbers and the trophies. Being a lefty, Townsend has a tough serve to deal with. She hits a really heavy ball. She has very good hands at the net. Her drop volleys and angle volleys are really good. So I feel like she's always been a great doubles player. I remember when we talked with her in Charleston a year or two ago. She was playing doubles with Fernandez at the time, and she talked about how that was the first time she'd ever played doubles and not singles in a tournament. So I don't think it's something she's ever focused on specifically. I think she's always kind of trained for singles and then happened to play and be really good at doubles. So at some point, if she does decide to focus on doubles and practice for doubles and not worry about her singles career anymore, which I don't know if she's near that or not. I don't keep up with her singles results.
Fernandez.
No, talking about Townsend.
Townsend, she's about top 100 at the minute.
Okay, yeah. So she'll probably keep playing singles for at least a little while. And if she did ever decide to quit singles and play doubles, which, financially, that's not a good decision if you can still make it in singles, she would be an awesome doubles player. I mean, regardless of whether she plays with Siniakova or not, she would probably be a consistent top 10 doubles player. She's got all the tools to do that. And because she was, like my theory earlier, like she can hang from the baseline with just about anybody. And then she's got the net skills and reactions and anticipation to make her a good doubles player.
Yeah, absolutely love watching Townsend in singles or doubles. Quick question I've got on the live chat from Ghosty, because I think I think it's a good question to ask, because I've struggled to watch much of the tournament and I can't remember. Do they play Townsend on the ad court, or do they?
No, she plays in the deuce court. So most of the lefty-righty combos will play with four hands in the middle. Yeah, you generally want to control the middle of the court, so you want more reach in the middle. You want your four hands in the middle usually, and then hitting your backhand cross court is a little bit easier than hitting it inside out.
Siniakova loves that backhand cross court. Those backhand cross court exchanges too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's very strong on that side. All right, I promised you this, Hanlon, so let's do this because I've realised we've got time's ticking. Yeah, you can pick now. Which team or story from the women's doubles draw do you want to talk about now? Or make sure you want to get a word in before you have to go.
Yeah, no, I mean, the semifinalists, you touched on this earlier, but it was such a marquee roster of semifinal teams. You had the top three seeded teams, and then arguably the most exciting or high profile unseeded team, Mira Andreeva and Diana Schneider. They were the silver medalists last year at the Olympics, and it seems like they're committed to playing a full double schedule. So I would be shocked if they don't qualify for the top eight in Riyadh. But, Shea and Ostapenko, I would say, were probably the biggest story, just being a new partnership. They bring a lot of just quirky kind of complementary personalities and playing styles, and they both have their own cult following. So that was definitely a fun team to watch, just given the many differences that they bring to the table, playing on the same side of the court. I do want to give a shout out to Gabby Dabrowski and Aaron Routliffe. They've been the best doubles team the last year on tour since they teamed up. Where we've seen players like Shea and Siniakova who can win titles with just about any partner. They might have been the best individual players, but in terms of a consistent team from start to finish, Gabby and Erin they seem to, make the semis or better of just pretty much any event that they play in. And they both just play traditional old school doubles, both serve and volley, both have just aggressive attacking styles. Also a big fan of their coach, Dan Kiernan, or Gabby's coach. I know Will and Dan have been on podcast interviews with each other, and we're big fans and friends of Dan. So wanted to give that team a shout out. And then again, Schneider and Andreeva, and Will can touch more on this, but they both seem to play, interesting, or I guess more strategy behind their doubles game. A lot of times when you see two singles players on the doubles court, they might just be playing like half court singles and just hitting big returns or ground stroke games. But Will got to see them firsthand in Melbourne, and Will, I'll let you talk about just their double strategy and them as a team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Schneider, especially, she knows where to move at the net and is like not afraid to poach, which, believe it or not, even at the pro level, I mean, a lot of players, especially the singles players, will get out there and just not move at the net and be kind of statues and only hit a volley if the ball is hit to them. And Schneider especially is not like that. Like, she's creating chaos for the opponents. She's moving at the net. She's going to get the ball. So they're playing real doubles with singles ground strokes from the baseline. They both obviously hit the ball big. They've got pretty good serves and really good returns. So yeah, they're absolutely, if they keep playing, I mean, they probably will only have to play the majors in 1,000 level events, and they'll probably make the year-end finals, the top 8. I think they're that good of a doubles team.
I'm gonna throw this one to Hanlon first, and then we'll come in on this. But like, it seems to me, like, going back to my earlier point around sort of the pedigree of women's doubles champions, that to a certain level, women's doubles seems to be a really good training ground, finishing school, whatever you want to call it, for the future singles Grand Slam champions. I've mentioned Sabalenka got a doubles title before winning singles. Goff did afterwards, but she was pretty strong on like 1,000 level before she got her singles title.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned, Iga also, she used to play with Bethany Maddox-Sands for a couple of slams, and they had a lot of success too.
Mirra Andreeva is being hyped as potentially the next big Grand Slam champion, winning a Grand Slam at some point in her career, given how good she was. She's been so young. Deanna Schneider, I'm not sure she's got the same hype about her, but is still a promising young talent. I guess it's like, you seeing this as an opportunity to, like, we might be seeing a repeat of this story again. Probably.
Yeah. I think maybe it helps. Obviously, it gets you more match play, which is huge. I think it can probably help mentally. They made the semifinals of the Australian Open now. Now they can say that they're Australian Open semifinalists. They went to a third set with the top seeds who won the tournament. So I think just putting yourself in those pressure situations, especially or regardless of whether it's singles or doubles, can help fuel success later on when you do make those deep runs, if it is in singles. So I think it makes sense. I'm not sure if there's anything specific, like strategically or tactically, that it does for you. Obviously, it's going to make your volleys a bit better, but I'm not sure like how that exactly is going to translate to single success in place of just practicing your volleys. But I think just getting match repetitions, getting on the court, making deep runs into week 2 of slams and doubles, I think just getting used to all of that could certainly help on the singles side of things later in your career.
Helen, before you go, do you want to come back on that point at all?
I agree with everything Will said, just about like it's kind of like a pressure-filled practice situation. So if you're I've heard, Jess Pegula used to say this all the time. If she's going to practice for singles, it might as well be like in a live match scenario and just use doubles as your practice court or your training ground. And I am about to have to drop off, but I do want to say one more thing on Siniakova before I do. You mentioned this earlier, Nick, but she's now in double-digit slam territory, and she is only 28. She's been winning about one or two slams a year for the last several seasons. So it's going to be interesting to see her continue to climb up. I think she's only 3 slams behind Martina Hingis and 4 behind Venus and Serena. So that's a bigger doubles storyline to watch as she continues to, sort of cement her place in the history book. So that'll be just something for us to watch throughout the year. But thanks again, Nick, for having me, and John. I appreciate you guys, and we'll all talk soon, hopefully.
Thanks for coming on, Hanlon. Really appreciate it.
Bye.
Yeah. All right. I'm not going to keep you on Will for too much longer, but I do want to. I did want to make sure we spent a little bit of time on one of the other big stories from the tournament, which was Shea and Ostapenko. Are you surprised those two work so well together?
In a way, I'm not. Like, as far as playing styles, I'm not. I just wasn't sure before this tournament what Shea had left, and she clearly has something left. She hadn't really had good results since Indian Wells last year when she won with Elise Mertens. They just didn't have a good later half of 2024, and then to start this year, Shea and Ostapenko lost like first or second round in one of the lead-up tournaments to Australia. So I just wasn't sure. I thought maybe Shea was, on the tail end of her doubles career, but clearly she was able to dial it up, and I was wrong about that. In terms of their game styles, I mean, it seems like a perfect fit for me. Like I feel like I just try to imagine if I'm an opponent of this team. Like, on the one hand, I'm going to get a ball that's coming at me 120 miles an hour from Ostapenko. And then on the other hand, I'm going to get a ball that's coming at me 40 miles an hour from Shea. Like, how are you supposed to find a rhythm against this team? I had Paul McNamee, Shea's coach, on my podcast last year, and he talked about how he's very big on having someone dominate from the baseline and dominate from the net. And Ostapenko's a perfect partner to dominate from the baseline, right? And Shea can dominate from the net. Ostapenko's now made 3 consecutive hard court Grand Slam doubles finals. So she made the finals in Australia last year. She won the US Open last year. And then now she made the finals of the Australian Open this year. So she's clearly cementing herself as one of the top doubles players in the world as well. I actually talked with her coach, Paul McNamee, Shea's coach, Paul McNamee, after their opening round win. He said they were working on some adjustments. He wouldn't share specifics, which I wouldn't get into anyways. But he said they're working on some adjustments between the teams. So it seems like they're still trying to kind of figure each other out and how to play against specific teams. I think they're going to learn a lot from that final. I do not think they played their best, especially Ostapenko on returns. I think they're going to learn a lot from that final, and I think they're going to I'd be surprised if they don't make another run at a Grand Slam this year and probably win one, maybe more. I think they're going to be one of the best teams throughout the year.
I would circle Wimbledon as being a really good opportunity for both of them for different reasons. Like Ostapenko's flat strokes always get off the grass. Like she's always been strong on grass and singles. And Shea, obviously with her variety and craftiness, that always works well on grass as well. So I could see that being a prime hunting ground for that partnership.
Yeah. I really think they'll do good on all surfaces. I think on the clay, the ball kind of sits up and Ostapenko can just really rip the ball from the baseline. Shea has such good touch and feel around the net that, on the clay, she's going to be able to wrong foot people. She's going to be able to hit drop shots on both the clay and the grass. And then they've shown what they can do on the hard courts. And I think, like I said, to reiterate, like the biggest thing for me, or the biggest takeaway for me, is I don't think they played well in that final, and they lost 6-3 in the third set. Like, I think they can play a lot better than that.
Watch out. I mean, there's a lot of women's doubles that you should watch out for, because, like, let's face it, if you've got Shea Siniakova, Shea, that would be a partnership and a half, Shea Ostapenko, Townsend Siniakova, Ratliff and Dabrowski, which Hanlon mentioned why they work so well together, Schneider and Andreeva. We haven't even mentioned Paulini and Irani, who Obviously got knocked out by the Russian duo early on, and that was just bad draw, bad luck, really, to face a good team so early on for the Italian pairing. You've got at least 5 really strong all-star teams gearing up to really battle it out for the biggest trophies this year. Have I missed any names off that list?
I mean, we can keep going. Mladenovic and Shui made the finals of the U.S. Open. They lost in the quarters to Siniakova and Townsend. If they continue to partner together throughout the rest of the year, which I'm not sure if they are or not, they're going to be a team to contend with. Kostyuk and Rus made the quarters, lost to Shea and Ostapenko 7-5 in the third. And I think Shea and Ostapenko were not playing as poorly in that match as they did in the final. So if Kostyuk and Rus decide to play more doubles, they'll be a team to watch out for. There's other new teams this year. Melikar, Martinez, and Babos are a team to watch out for. Babos has obviously won some doubles majors. Mertens is playing with Ellen Perez, who are, once they figure things out, I imagine Mertens seems to make deep runs at Grand Slams with different partners. So they could be a team to watch out for. I mean, we could keep going on and on. There's a lot of new partnerships that if they kind of mesh well and figure things out, it's really going to be a battle, I think, on the women's side to finish in that year in top 8.
I'm going to be honest. I was very annoyed that so many women's doubles matches were scheduled when I was asleep, because there was so many. Like, I wanted to watch every semi-final and the final, and they were all on during day sessions, which are on the wrong time of day for me, is in my time zone. Hey, yeah, Australians got a good treat, and you got to enjoy watching them eating your dinner, but not for me. So slight whinge over. But
they always seem to schedule the doubles a little bit earlier in the day, which I think, whatever. I think the area they can improve the scheduling is more on the week 2 of the tournament, because you see a lot of the big stadiums in the quarterfinals and semifinals and finals. There's just not a lot of fans at the big stadiums for these matches, and a lot of the reason for that, in my mind, is they don't really market those matches. They don't. A lot of the fans aren't, told. I'm on the email list for the Australian Open, and they don't say, like, hey, before you go to the men's final between Zverev and Sinner, like, check out the women's doubles final. Your ticket gets you into both. Like, they need to be promoting that a bit more, because you can see behind me, like, this was the, I think, second round match or first round match with Elise Mertens and Ellen Perez, and the small stands behind me were totally full. There was a huge line. I actually have a video of it. There was a huge line of maybe 100 people or so to try to get into those stands. And then the side I'm on is like a 2-level. It's kind of like a party court. There's like a bar, and there's like all these tables, and then there's a rooftop area. And that was totally packed, like 5 or 6 people deep. So it was really hard to be able to watch this match. And that's how all of the early round matches were in Australia.
Yeah, there was because there were so many good doubles clashes. I mean, I will say something they did for the mixed doubles final, which we haven't really talked about. I probably don't have much time to go too in depth on, but what I did like for that mixed doubles final, probably because it was an all Australian final, was they did let ground pass holders into Rod Laver Arena to watch that match. Maybe it was because they didn't want an empty stadium and they were worried similar phenomenon to what you've been describing with the other kind of stadium matches that put a doubles match on. But I really did like that they did that, at least to kind of promote.
So I thought they had changed that. So I'm pretty sure they initially announced that they were going to let grounds pass holders in, and then like an hour or 2 before, they realized they couldn't. Yeah, they realized they couldn't, and you had to have a ticket to, I think it was the women's final or maybe the men's semifinal. It was probably the men's semifinal.
It was the men's semifinals, yeah.
On Friday, yeah. So you had to have a ticket to that men's semifinal to get in. So what ended up happening is there weren't very many fans in the stadium for the mixed doubles final. So
That's
John,
pretty poor organization there.
yeah, it was a miscommunication, and I got into an exchange with someone on Twitter to try to get more information about it, and somebody from the media down there said basically they got an email correcting it like a couple hours before. And it sounds like, I mean, I would love to hear from someone who works with the Australian Open or Tennis Australia to help improve the communication on this, but it sounds like they were relying on their media to get the message out to the fans. And in my mind, I'm like, well, if all these people bought tickets, you have their emails, like email all of them as soon as you know, hey, by the way, you have access to the mixed doubles finals. And also, by the way, it's an all Aussie mixed doubles final. Why don't you come out early and watch that and then hang around for the men's semifinal, which you want to see. So I think the communication was really poor on that, and they kind of botched that. So it was unfortunately not a very good crowd. But at the end of the day, I just don't think they care that much about doubles. So I don't know. They don't put a lot of effort or thought into it.
I mean, it's a shame because that mixed doubles final played more sets than the men's semi-final that followed it. Like,
yeah, it did. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
more.
if you looked at all of these men's, women's, all the doubles semifinals and finals, I mean, there was a lot of sets played, like a lot of 3-set matches. And if you looked at the men's singles, it was a 1-set match, a 3-set match, a 3-set match.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were certainly exciting. And of course it's not always going to be like that, but I do think that there's like little small tweaks that wouldn't take a whole lot of effort that would help fill up these stadiums a bit more for some of these semifinals and finals matches on Margaret Court or Rod Laver Arena. But again, I'm just not sure. They've got so much stuff going on trying to promote the singles and stuff. They just don't care that much to make these adjustments, unfortunately.
Would you go as far as to say that the Australian Open is the worst slam at marketing doubles?
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure any of them are great at it. And it's not like an intentional thing. It's just that they don't, it's not the thing that makes them the money, which I get, but I'm also like, okay, but it is a part of your business. Like, don't you want that part of your business to succeed? So I don't know who's the best or the worst at marketing doubles. I think across the board, nobody's particularly good at it just because they don't put a whole lot of effort into it. And I understand why. I don't agree with why, but I understand why. Yeah. So I'm hoping that'll change over the next, several years and going forward.
In my view, you're going to get more people in through the door, which fundamentally you want to sell tickets, right? And it's not just about selling the most expensive tickets. It's just selling all of the tickets will get you more money. You're going to get more money if everyone's excited to see all of the tennis that you could possibly see. And like week 2 on the outside courts, it's all doubles, wheelchairs, juniors, whatnot, but like doubles specifically. Yeah, you've got a great opportunity, at least the first few days. Obviously, they then start putting doubles on the main stadiums, and you've then got to have a reason for selling those stadiums when you stop putting singles on some of those stadiums. Like, obviously, there's usually one main stadium by the time you get to quarterfinals at most slams. They like their secondary and tertiary stadiums are going to be your doubles, and you want to sell tickets for those, market doubles. That's the solution.
100%. Yeah, there's lots of different potential solutions, but they just, like I said, I'm just not sure that it's a priority for them. But like, even as you were saying that, like one thing that came to mind, this was Wednesday, I believe. So it was a quarterfinal day. The doubles matches were on Margaret Court, and then singles quarters was on Rod Laver. And it was just grounds pass holders could get into Margaret Court. But one thing they could do is, like, why don't you sell a doubles ticket for like $1 or $5?
Yeah.
Right. And like, just make it super low so that people have to pay something, but they think they're getting this just ridiculously good deal. Like, I get to watch the Grand Slam quarterfinals of doubles for $5. And guess what else they're going to do? They're going to buy beer. They're going to buy food. Like, you're just missing out on revenue by not marketing this stuff a little bit better. So, I don't know. I mean, I could go on and on about this, but
yeah, and we're probably over our time that is probably ideal. But I was going to say was, you said the words, they think they're going to get a good deal. You and I both know, Will, a Grand Slam quarterfinal is a good deal if you're paying $5 for it.
It is. But the important thing is that they think they're getting a good deal, whether it's a good deal or not. Like that's how sales and marketing works, right? Like not to say they need to be like shady or anything like that, but you've got to convince the customer that it's a good deal. And that's the most important thing. And we know it's a good deal. $5 to watch Shea and Ostapenko against Kostyuk and Rus. Like, yeah, I'll pay $5 for that.
Hopefully those of you who've been watching us or listening back to us on the podcast, hope you thought this was a good deal, that you got to watch this for free. Thanks, Will, for coming on. Thank you, Helen, earlier, who had to leave, obviously, but thank you, Will, for coming on and doing our regular wrap up of all things doubles at Slams. Always fun to do.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate y'all having me on, and we'll do it again for Roland Garros in a few months' time.
Bring on the French, but not too quickly because we've got a lot to enjoy in between.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching or listening. Keep an eye on the channel for more content. I'm not gonna confirm anything right here, right now, sort of what's coming next. But obviously, I know what's definitely happening next. We will, if nothing happens in between now and then, there will be an ATP and a WTA Weekly show some point over the weekend. But WTA Weekly is on Sunday. I'll be hosting that. As usual, we'll be wrapping up the events from Linz and Singapore. Keep an eye on so keep an eye on the channel for that. If you're new, please subscribe. We will talk doubles again at some point. In fact, we will always keep talking tennis. So everyone, thanks for watching. Take care and watch more doubles.
Watch more doubles.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.